Well, good afternoon, folk, and welcome to another episode of Mathematical Literacy. Absolutely great times ahead. Today, we're discussing a whole wonderful topic entitled banking. Okay, now that's kind of interesting because that implies that money is involved. And whenever money is involved, we all get excited because it means that we're either going to get some money or, unfortunately, it means we're going to pay some money out. But banking is the title of our program today. So let's have a look. So there it is, banking, and what are we going to discuss? Well, we are going to discuss the following. First of all, we're going to look very basically at how a bank actually works. Then we're going to look at interest, talk about interest, what does it involve, what's it all about, and then we're going to go a little bit further and break interest up into two parts, looking at simple interest and looking at compound interest. Right? So without any further ado, let's get started. Right, number one. How a bank works. Now, basically, folk, you get two types of accounts in a bank. The first type is one in which you're going to put money, in which you're going to keep money, right? And that could be a savings account, it could be a check account, all right? But it's where you're going to earn money from whoever. Let's say I work as a teacher. My school is going to put money into an account, and that's where that money is going to stay until my wife finds my card and starts spending it. But for the short period of time, my money is going to be in a little account. Okay? If I want to, I can take some of that money out and put it into a special savings account that I cannot touch at all. And I can actually lock that money in for a period of 3 months or 6 months or even 12 months if I want to. Okay? So the first type of accounts we get in the bank is the type where money goes in, where it's my money. So let's have a look at that. Savings account. You give the bank money, right? The bank keeps your money safe. Well, let's hope it does. The bank charges you for services, and the bank is going to pay you interest. Now, let's just have a look at this thing here. The bank charges you for services. In one of our previous episodes, I spoke about this in quite a lot of depth, but I just want to recap it again quickly. When you put money into a bank, okay, the bank is going to charge you certain amount of money for doing that, right? I know that sounds crazy because you're giving them your money, but they still charge you for it. So if I walk into a bank and I've got a whack of cash, okay, or even a little bit of cash, if I hand that over to the teller and say, I want to put this money into the bank, please, depending on where you're banking and what bank you're using, that bank is going to charge you a little bit of money because they've had to do a transaction for you. If I go off to an ATM and I deposit money into the ATM, that bank may very well charge you for that, because a transaction is taking place. And whenever there's a transaction taking place, the bank charges you, okay? Now, that charge we call bank charges. And folks, depending on what bank you've got or what package the bank is offering you, those bank charges can vary quite a bit. And there's a lot of adverts on TV lately where certain banks are saying, hey, come bank with us. We won't charge you very much. Okay? So, always remember, you're now still at school, but when you get older, you might have to open your own bank account. Make sure you're aware of how much money the bank is charging you. Right. So, that's our first account. You're giving the bank keeps the money, they're going to charge you a bit of money, and they're going to pay you interest. And we'll talk about that interest just now. Now, the second type of account that the bank has is the kind of account where they are loaning you money, right? So we could take out a home loan account. A home loan account is the kind of account where I am now going to the bank and saying, oi, I've seen a fantastic house just up the road and I want to buy it, but I don't have that kind of money. And the bank sit down with you, they have a little chat, they make sure you're able to afford a certain amount of money every month, and then they give you a loan. Okay? So they open up a home loan account. So a home loan account is an account, but it's money you own the bank. The balance in that account doesn't mean it's your balance, all right? It's the amount that you own the bank. Another account you could open up with them is if, for example, you suddenly need money urgently, for whatever reason. Perhaps one day when you're a mom or a dad, you suddenly get your school fee account and your heart misses a beat and you think, oh my giddy aunt, how am I going to pay all this? So you dash off to the bank and say, guys, listen, I need a loan quickly of 20,000 Rand. Then they can open a special little account for you, where a loan account, where you are taking money from the bank and you are going to use it. But unfortunately, you've got to pay them back. Always remember that, hey? You're going to pay them back. And always remember as well that they are going to charge you interest. Not only are they going to charge you interest, but when you first take out the loan, there's something called an administrative fee. It's like a bank charge. So let's have a look at this. So a loan account is when the bank gives you money, bank charges you interest, and you pay the bank back your loan plus the interest. Okay, and that's the horrible thing about loaning money, folk, is you can go to them and they are more than willing to loan you the money. They're more than willing to give it over to you if you can pay it back, okay? They'll look at all your salary advice slip. They'll say, gee, this guy earns a nice salary. Of course we'll lend him the money because he can pay us back. And they will take this money and say, here it is. It's all yours. And you take it and you say, wow, look at this money. But you've got to pay it back. And not only are you paying the money back, but you also got to pay back interest. Let's move on. Now, we're talking about this thing called interest. Now, folk, interest can be a good thing, but it can also be a horrible thing. When do you think it's going to be a good thing? When you have got money in the bank, and the bank has got to pay you interest. Oh, then interest is a wonderful thing. But when you have taken money from the bank, and they've loaned you a certain amount of money, they are going to charge you interest. And here's a little secret, okay? In fact, it's not much of a secret. You soon learn this. But when you put money in a bank, the interest they give you is a very little bit. But when you go and get money from the bank, the interest they charge you is a whack, okay? These bankers, they're out to get your money. Don't you forget that. So the amount of interest we pay, or the bank pays us, depends on certain things. It depends on the amount of money that we're investing or borrowing. This amount is called the principal amount. What else does the interest depend on? Well, it depends on the length of time that we invest or borrow the money. What else does it depend on? It also depends on the interest rate, okay? And the interest rate can vary. Sometimes the bank will say, you know what, if you put your money with us, we'll give you 3% interest. And another bank will say, oi, don't worry about those guys. Come to us and we'll give you 3.5% interest. And another bank will say, forget them, we're going to give you 5%. There's a little catch though, you've got to keep your money with us for at least 6 months, but we'll give you 5% interest. So interest doesn't always stay the same. It's going to vary the whole time, okay? It depends on the economy of our country, but it also depends on the different banks, and it depends how you agree to save your money. So if you tell a bank, I will leave that money in there for 24 months, they'll give you a much better interest rate than if you just leave it in for 1 month, because they want to try and hold on to your money as much as they can. What else does the interest depend on? Well, when we borrow money, we want the lowest interest rate possible. Okay? That is important to know. When I borrow money, I'm going to go into a bank and I'm going to say, what are you going to charge me? And someone will say, I'll charge you 9%. what are you going to charge me? And they say, I'll charge you 10%. We say, oh no, go away, I want the 9%. I'd rather pay 9% than pay 10%. So when we're borrowing money, we want a lowest possible interest rate. But let's have a look here. When we save or invest money, we want the highest. Okay? So when we're saving, we want the highest interest rate. When we're borrowing money, we want the lowest interest rate. So now I go to the bank and I say, check all this money I've got. I want to put it in the bank. How much are you going to give me? And this bank says, we'll give you 9%. And this bank says, we'll give you 10%. I say, I'll take the 10%. But if I had to pay them interest, I'd rather take the 9%. Pay as little as possible, but get as much as possible back. Do we understand the difference? Of course we do. Now, there are different types of interest. The first type of interest is called simple interest. And the next type of interest we get is something called compound interest. So it's simple interest, it's compound interest. And we're going to look at those two interests very shortly. So we're going to take a quick little break, and then we're going to look at simple interest. After we've looked at this whole concept of simple interest, we'll then take another break and then look at this difficult thing called compound interest. You take a quick break, and we'll be back shortly. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, we're busy looking at banking today. And we're looking, obviously, this is grade 10 mathematical literacy. Okay, and our topic, banking. And so far what we've looked at is we've said that a bank can also offer us two types of accounts. One account where we are putting money into, and there are a whole lot of different types of those, and then other accounts which we have to open to borrow money from the bank, okay, like a home loan account, for example. And then what we said, with both those types of accounts, there's something called interest that we've got to look at. If I have got money in account, the bank has got to pay me interest. If I owe the bank money, I've got to give them interest for that money that I've loaned. And then what we've said is this, that interest, there are two different types of interest. So the one type of interest is called simple interest, and the other type of interest is called compound interest. And that's where we stopped just before the break. Now we're going to look at this simple interest. Let's have a look here. Simple interest. Simple interest is when you pay or earn, it all depends. Remember, if I borrowed money from the bank, I'm going to pay them. But if I put money in the bank, they're going to pay me. I'm going to earn the interest. So simple interest is when you pay or earn interest on the original amount only. It is calculated as a percentage of the amount borrowed or invested and is the same year on year. Let's put it in simple English. If I go to the bank and I say, here's 100 Rand. I want to put this 100 Rand in the bank for 5 years. Year 1, they're going to give me interest on the 100 Rand. Year 2, they're going to give me interest on the 100 Rand. Year 3, they're going to give me the interest on the 100 Rand. Year 4, interest on the 100 Rand. Do you know what I'm getting at? And year 5, interest on the 100 Rand. So the interest is always going to be on the amount that I initially put into the bank. There's nothing else that can affect that amount that I'm getting the interest on. Are we all right on that? Now, there are two ways of calculating interest. First of all, if you want to calculate the simple interest only, you use the following formula. Simple interest is equal to P times I times N. Now, this formula is a formula that the teachers should give you in every test and in every examination if they're asking you a question about simple interest. So if they say calculate simple interest, then my Gideon, I hope your teacher knows they've got to give you that formula. We're not here to check if you know formulas. That's not what the subject's about. It's can you use the formula, right? So we've got a formula, SI equals P times N times I. Now, if you've never used this formula before, you would never know what does SI mean, what's P mean, what's the N mean, what's the I stand for. Let's have a look. Simple interest. SI means the simple interest you will earn or pay, depending if I'm borrowing the money or if I'm lending the money. P, principal amount, the amount being borrowed or invested. Okay? So principal amount is the amount that we start off with. I is the interest rate being used, and we normally write that as a percentage per annum. In other words, the rate given is the rate per year. And we'll talk about that now. And N is the time in years you are borrowing or investing the money for. Okay, now, let's clear something up right away. Understand something, that if you go to a bank and you say, here is 1,000 Rand, I want to put it with your bank, what interest rate are you going to give me? The bank will say, we are going to give you, let's say, 6% per annum. Yo, what's that mean? You've never done this before, you don't know what per annum means. So the bank says, we'll give you 6% per year. That's what per annum actually means. So we're going to give you 6% interest per year, and you are like so happy. So you put your 1,000 Rand in the bank, you walk out the bank, you come, go around the little twirly-whirly door, whatever we call that. So you walk in, go around the twirly-whirly door, and you come back in the bank and you say, can I have my 1,000 Rand back, please, with the interest? Okay? And the bank's going to say, but now hold on, you've just given us your money. We can't give you 6% interest. We can only give you that 6% interest at the end of the year. Sure. What happens if I only keep my money in for half a year? Well, they're going to calculate the 6% interest and then divide it by 2. Why? You've only kept it there half a year. They'll only give you half the interest. So don't forget that. Okay? When you are told the interest rate is 6% per year, it means you're only going to get that 6% if you keep it in for the whole year. If you keep it in for half the year, well, you're only going to get half the interest. If you keep it in for a quarter of the year, you're only going to get quarter of the interest. If you keep it in for 1 month, you're going to get a 12th of the interest. If I keep it in for a day, I'll get 1/365th of the interest. Understand? Right. Now, so here's a formula saying simple interest, P times I times N. Now remember, we use that if I'm trying to calculate the simple interest. What happens if I want to calculate the total amount? That means not only the interest, but also the money I put into the bank. Then there's a different formula I can use, and that's this formula here. A is equal to P bracket 1 plus I times N. Again, folks, this is quite confusing if you've never seen this before. The A means the accumulated amount. In other words, the amount that I put in the bank with the interest. What's P mean? P is the principal amount, or the amount that we first put in. Now let's have a look here. Remember, there was a P there. That P and this P are the same P's. Okay? The amount we're putting in the bank. I is the interest rate, and N the number of years. So these formulas are pretty much equal, similar rather, in the sense that they both have a P, they both have an I, and they both have an N. But this one has got an A, meaning the money that I put in the bank plus the interest, and this is just the interest I'm going to earn. I think the best way to get this into our heads is by looking at an example. So let's do that. So here's an example. Peter, very nice name, fantastic name. Okay, name your first boy Peter. Stands him in good stead for life. So Peter now invests 1,000 Rand at 8% simple interest per annum. In other words, per year. How much interest does he earn after 10 years? Now look here, we get given the formula. That's exciting stuff. We told SI equals P times R times N. Now the first thing I'm going to try and determine is this. What am I trying to find? I'm trying to find how much interest. In other words, that's what I'm trying to find, the simple interest. I know my P is 1,000. How do I know that? I know that because it's the amount I'm putting into the bank. R stands for my interest. What's my interest, folk? Here it is, 8%. Now, how do I write 8%? Well, there are actually two kind of ways that we could actually write it. The first way is writing it as a fraction. So I say 8 over 100. Let's look here. So R could be 8 over 100. Or I could write it as 0.08. How did I get that 0.08? Let me show you. On my calculator, I've got 8 over 100. Push equals. What do I get? 0.08. Can you see the likeness? So those are the two ways that I would recommend that we actually write our interest. Either 8 over 100 or 0.08. The general feeling is that's what should be written. I say to my kids, write what makes you comfortable. If you would rather see in your mind 8% is 8 over 100, there's nothing to stop you from writing it like that. If you see 8% as 0.08, write it like that. Okay? Either way, it's okay. Now, N. What does the N mean? The N means the number of years. And the question says, how much interest does he earn after 10 years? So that's what we're looking at. So my N is 10. All right, so having said that then, let's do the calculation. I'm going to say, right, SI equals P times N times R equals, what's my P? It's 1,000 rand. Times N, what's my N? It's 10. Times R, what's my R? 0.08. And that's going to tell me how much interest. So we zap up our calculator now, and we say, right, it's 1,000 multiplied by my number of years, which was 10, multiplied by my interest rate, 0.08, equals, and I get 800. So the interest I earn after that period of 10 years is 800 rand. Do you understand that? Let's make it simpler. I'm just going to try and explain simple interest using this example. How much interest would he have earned after 1 year if it was 8%? So let's do this again, and I'm going to say I'm investing 1,000 rand for 1 year at 0.08. So with our calculator now, we're going to do exactly the same calculation, but I'm going to say it's for 1 year. And what do we get? We get 80 rand. So it is actually 80 rand. So after 1 year, I earn 80 rand. How much am I going to earn the next year? Also 80 rand. Why? Because my interest is based on that 1,000 rand. It's not based on anything else. So if I earned 80 rand on 1,000 rand, the next year I've also got to earn 80 rand on that 1,000 rand. And the next year also 80 rand on that 1,000 rand. So it's 80 and 80 and 80 and 80 and 80 and 80. And we keep going for 10 years. You know that 80 times 10 is going to give you 800. Can you see how we got the 800? So there were two ways of doing it, hey? I could have actually said, let's calculate it for 1 year, and then multiply it for 10 years because I'm doing it 10 times and got the 800, or I could have just zapped that straight into that formula. Does that help you understand simple interest a little bit more? Let's go on, because this question carries on. The next one. What is the total investment worth after the 10 years? Now, there's this formula here, and I'm going to cover it up because I'm going to try and do it logically. How much money did he invest? He took 1,000 rand. So he's got this 1,000 rand, and we've already calculated that he earned 800 rand. So at the end of the 10 years, he should have 1,800 rand. Is that logical? I think it is. So we had 1,000 rand. Every year, for 10 years, we've earned 80, 80, 80, which means it came to 800. We just did that. So if I add the interest of 800 plus the 1,000 rand, I've got 1,800 rand. Let's do that with the formula and see if it makes sense. This is where a teacher always holds his breath and thinks, oh, please let it work. Let's see if it works. So A is equal to P1 plus I times N. Can you see this formula we're using now? Remember last time we were just calculating the interest, so we used the other formula. Now we want to know the interest with the initial amount. So A is what we're trying to calculate. P, the amount we put in the bank, was 1,000 rand. I, we said was, what was it? 8%, eh? It was 8%, cool. And we said we could write that as 0.08. And N was for the number of years, which is 10. So let's go. A equals P, which is 1,000 rand, times 1 plus my interest rate, 0.08. I'm going down here because I'm going to write across there, which will be terrible, times 10. Okay, equals, let's use our calculator and solve this quickly. So we're going to clear our calculator and we're going to say I have 1,000. 1, 2, 3, open brackets, 1 plus I, which was 0.08. Oops, let's go 0.8 times my 10 years. And then we close brackets. And what do we get? Now, folk, I hope we get 1,800 rand, because if we don't, then this formula and my logic are not matching up. So everyone hold your breath, here goes. Equals, sure, 1,800 rand. That is just such a relief. So let's write it down straight away. 1,800 rand. Can you see how the two have tied up? Okay. Now, there's nothing to stop me from using either method. The one method of using formulas is you're just taking a formula and you're just punching in a whole lot of numbers. The other method, the one I did in the first place, you're actually taking a bit of logic. And you're taking your mind and you're saying, right, let's think about this logically. I put 1,000 rand in. I've earned 800 rand. Together it must make 1,800 rand. Let's keep going. Next one. Question 2. Nia keeps her money in a savings account. She saves 500 rand for a year. At the end of the year, she has earned 62 rand 50 in simple interest. What was the interest rate she received? Okay, so here now we've got someone called Nia, and she goes to a bank, and she just takes 500 rand and hands it over to them and say, here, take it, put it in the bank, I'll see you in a year's time. And out she goes. She comes back in a year and says, right, I want the interest, please. And they say it's 62 rand 50, here's your interest. And she says, what's the interest rate? What interest rate did you give me? And they say, well, we don't know. So she goes home and tries to calculate it herself. Now, do you remember, if we go back, we said in order to calculate interest only, we are going to say SI equals P times I times N. So we're going to use the exact same thing here. We're going to say simple interest equals P times N times I. Okay? We know what the simple interest is, don't we? In fact, let's write all this down. SI, the P, the N, and the I. This is always a good thing to do. I try and encourage my students to do this. If you've got a formula, break that formula up and see what you've got and ask yourself, myself, what am I looking for? Because once you know what you're looking for, and once you know what you've got, you can solve any equation. So let's go. So the first thing is this, what do I want? I want to know what was the interest rate. So it's the I that I'm trying to calculate. The simple interest I know, it was 62 rand and 50 cents. P is the amount I invested, which was 500 Rand. N is the number of years, and we are just doing it for 1 year because at the end of the year, 1 year. Now we've got every little bit of information I need, plus I know what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the R, the interest. So let's start with this equation, and we're going to say, right, simple interest is equal to P times N times I. The simple interest I know is 62 Rand 50. The P I know is 500. The N I know is 1, and the I is what I'm trying to calculate. So I've got 62,5 equals. What is 500 times 1? We know it's 500. Well, I hope you know that. Okay? 500 times 1, 500. So I've got 500 I, because 500 times I is 500 I. We're trying to get the I by itself. We're trying to calculate what's the I. How do I get that I to be by itself? Well, I'm going to divide by 500, because if I divide by 500, I get I. What I do to one side, I've got to do to the other. So we've got to take that and divide by 500. Now it's kind of equal, isn't it? Remember, whatever I do to one side of an equation, I've got to do to the other side. It's like being a kid at home. Imagine if you go home and your dad says to you when you get home, hey, listen, kiddo, we've decided to give your brother an extra 500 Rand a month pocket money. And you say, yeah, because now you're waiting in anticipation. And he says, no, that's all, I just wanted you to know, and they walk off. You'd be devastated. Your heart would absolutely shatter. Because if he said we're giving the brother 500 Rand, then we would also expect to be given an extra 500 Rand a month. I mean, fair is fair. Imagine if you go home one day and your dad says to you, listen, we've reviewed your pocket money and we kind of feel you're getting too much, so we're taking away 200 Rand. But your brother, no, he's a nice kid. We love him more. We're keeping him as full part. You'd be devastated. You would go into an absolute state of depression. What's good for the one kid is good for the other kid. I wish my parents had known that. My brother got everything. But that's another story. So what I've done to this side is I've divided by 500. So I'm dividing this side by 500. Why did I divide by 500? So I could get R by itself. So what's going to happen here? Let's take out our calculator and we're going to work this out. We are going to say we've got 62.50 and we're going to put it over 500 or divide by 500. And what do we get? We get an answer of 0.125. Okay. So what is my interest rate? Is my interest rate 0.125? But it's I. And remember the way we wrote I was we said I is equal to the percentage over 100. So we've got to take this amount and multiply it by 100 to get the actual percentage. When I multiply that by 100, I'm going to get 12.5%. Understand? It's not that hard, is it? Just had to learn a few things. Number one, most important fact, let's write down everything in our formula, determine what we're trying to find first of all, put in all the missing bits, take all that information, zap it into my formula, and then try and solve the missing bits. And then you're going to get to your answer. But, folk, it's not always that simple. It's going to take practice and practice and practice, especially if you're in grade 10 and you're coming across this for the first time. Okay? You need a lot of practice. Remember when you were a little child and you had to learn to walk, you didn't just suddenly one day stand up and say, I'm going to walk, and off you go. Okay? It took a lot of practice. You stood up, you kind of stood up, you fell backwards. Eventually you learned to stand, and then you had to learn to walk forward. Okay? And you might have taken 1 or 2 steps and then fallen. Imagine if once you'd fallen, you'd said, that's it, I'm not going to walk, it's impossible, that's it, forget it. You'd now be 15, 16 years old and still saying, that's it, I'm never going to do this. Right? How embarrassing. but you persevered. And the same with this. You've got to persevere. And on that note, we're going to take a break because I'm going to practice doing a little bit more walking. We'll chat soon. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, we're busy doing a bit of mathematical literacy, grade 10 stuff actually, but if you're grade 11 or 12, don't you go away because this stuff's in your syllabus as well. We're busy looking at banking, and what we said was this, that if I put money in a bank or if I'm borrowing money from a bank, there's this funny thing called interest that comes to play. And we were busy looking at interest just before the break. And we said there are two types of interest. The one is called simple interest, and the other one is called compound interest. And just before the break, we just finished looking at simple interest. The one thing I want to stress at this stage, though, is this, that you know what, banks don't use simple interest nowadays. Not at all. In fact, it's very difficult to think of a real-life example where simple interest is actually used. We tend to focus on compound interest. So this session now, focus, think clearly, and try and understand everything I'm going to tell you. We're looking at compound interest. So what is compound interest? Well, first of all, compound interest. This type of interest is the most common that financial institutions use. Well, actually, to tell you the truth, it's the only one they use. It is when interest earned or charged is added to the principal amount regularly. So interest is calculated on a different amount each time you pay or earn interest on interest. We use the following formula. Here's a formula over there. Now, I'm going to digress quickly and I'm going to tell you a story. Right. I teach two boys in my grade 10 class. One kid is called Rocky. Actually, that's not his name, but he looks like a rock, so we call him Rocky. And the other kid is called Hayden. Now, Rocky is like a big, solid kind of guy. And Rocky has got to eat on a regular basis. If Rocky doesn't eat, we all know about it. He gets in a bad mood. I, as a teacher, cringe when he walks in my class. It's actually quite scary. But what happened one day was Rocky came to school and he'd forgotten his lunch. So he decided he was going to go off to the canteen, right, to the tuck shop. But he needed money. So he approached Hayden. So Rocky over here goes to Hayden and says to Hayden, Hayden, I need 20 rand, please. Now Hayden's a small little kid and Rocky's a big kid. So Hayden handed over 20 rand and said, here we go, Rocky. And Rocky said, I'll give it back to you tomorrow. Now, this was Monday. Tuesday comes along and Hayden wants his 20 rand. But Rocky realizes he doesn't have it. So Rocky was ducking and diving Hayden the whole day. Every time he saw Hayden, he'd run down the other corridor. And at the end of Tuesday, Rocky thought, oh, thank goodness I missed Hayden. Wednesday came along, and Hayden was walking around one corner, Rocky around the other corner, and they walked into each other. And Hayden said, hey, Rocky, you owe me money. And Rocky said, oh, man, I had it here yesterday. Now I've forgotten it at home. So sorry about it. I'll bring it to you tomorrow. The next day comes, Wednesday, and Rocky says, Hayden, I got your money. Oh, it must have fallen out my pocket. I'll bring it tomorrow. Thursday comes along, and Rocky says to Hayden, here's your 20 rand. Well, Hayden's kind of upset a little bit because he had to wait 4 days for this money, but he's also kind of happy because he got his 20 rand back. And everybody was happy, and the rest of the week continued very nicely. The following Monday, same thing happened. You see, Rocky's not too good on Mondays. Same thing happened. Rocky forgot the money, forgot his lunch, and had to borrow money from Hayden. So he goes to Hayden and says, Hayden, how's it? How are you? How about 20 rand? So Hayden says, okay, I'll give you the 20 rand, but Hayden's not stupid. So Hayden says to Rocky, okay, I'll give you 20 rand, but I'm charging you interest. I'm charging you 10% interest a day. Simple interest. And Rocky like, yeah, sure, whatever that means. Cool. Tuesday comes, Rocky realizes he's left the money. So he ducks and he dives and he hides and he tries to get away from Hayden. Now let's see what's happened. On Monday, Rocky owed Hayden 20 Rand. On Tuesday, he didn't pay him. So he actually owes him 20 Rand plus 10%. Now what's 10% of 20 Rand? It's 2 Rand, isn't it? So on Tuesday, he owes him 22 Rand. So Hayden's saying, I don't have my money, but it's okay, I'm earning interest here. Wednesday comes along, Hayden goes round one corner, Rocky round the other corner. They walk into each other and Rocky says, oh man, I had your money here yesterday, but I've left it at home now, I'll have to bring it tomorrow. Hayden says, no, that's cool, I'm earning interest. Let's look here, Wednesday, 20 Rand plus the 2 Rand from the one day and the 2 Rand now from the next. Rocky owes Hayden 24 Rand. Thursday comes. And what happens? He says to Rocky, Rocky, have you got my money? And Rocky says, of course I have. It's in my pocket here. Oh, no, it's fallen out. I'll have to bring it tomorrow. Hayden says, not a problem. I'm earning interest. So Thursday, he owed him 24 Rand already, plus another 2 Rand. So it's the 20 Rand plus the 2 Rand from Tuesday, plus from Wednesday. Now from Thursday, he owes him 26 Rand. Friday, Rocky sees Hayden. Hey, Hayden, good news, I got your money. Here's your 20 Rand. And Hayden says, no, pal, not a chance. Let's have a look here. You owed me 20 Rand. 2 Rand from Tuesday, 2 Rand from Wednesday, 2 Rand from Thursday, and today's 2 Rand. You owe me 28 Rand, pal. And Rocky says, what you talking about? Okay? Hayden says, come, let's go see Mr. Templeton, our maths teacher. He'll explain it to you. So both boys came to me, stood in front of me. I said, Rocky, you owe him 28 Rand. Don't even try and think about it, pal. We did this in class the other day. You weren't listening. You owe him 28 Rand. And Rocky hands over the 28 Rand. And for the rest of that week, everything's fine. Well, it had to be. It was the last day of the week. The following Monday comes, same thing. Hey, Rocky, not the sharpest pencil in the box. Realizes he's forgotten his lunch. Goes to Hayden and says, can I borrow 20 Rand? And Hayden says, okay, cool. But last week, we were taught about compound interest. Okay, I'll lend you the 20 Rand, but now I'm charging you 10% compounded interest. And Rocky says, yeah, whatever. Okay? So let's see what happens. Now, the Monday, he owes him 20 Rand. Tuesday, Rocky ducks and dives Hayden the whole time. Okay, when Hayden comes here, Rocky, same thing. The Tuesday, it always happens the same. Okay? Hayden says, that's cool, because 10% on 20 Rand is 2 Rand. So he owes me the 20 Rand plus the 2 Rand. This guy owes me 22 Rand. Wednesday, Rocky comes round one corner, Hayden round the other corner, walk into each other, and Hayden says, hey, Rocky, you owe me money. And Rocky says, oh, man, I had it here yesterday, and you didn't find me. I'll have to bring it tomorrow. I don't have it with me. Hayden says, that's cool. I'm earning interest. But now, let's look at the interest. Hayden now says this. He owed me 22 Rand. I am charging him interest because we're talking compound. I'm not charging interest on the 20 Rand, but I'm charging him interest on what he owes me. So he owes me 22 Rand. I want 10%. Let's take our calculator. So we're now going to say, got 22 Rand, and I want 10% of that. Okay, we're going to add 10%. So what is it? It's a further 2 Rand 20. So we're going to add 2 Rand 20. It now comes to 24 Rand 20. Let's look at last Wednesday. What did he owe him? He only owed him 24 Rand. Now it's 24 Rand 20. What's the difference? Well, with simple interest, we're just charging interest on the money that Rocky borrowed from Hayden. Compound, Hayden's now charging 10% interest on what Rocky owes him, the total amount he owes him. Are you beginning to understand the difference? Let's have a look. Thursday comes along. Okay? Hayden walks into Rocky, says, hey, Rocky, you owe me money. Rocky says, yeah, I got it here. Oh, no, it's fallen out my pocket. Bring it tomorrow. Hayden says, not a problem. I'll just add interest. So what happens? On Thursday, we've got the 24 Rand 20 cents. Plus, now, with the 24 Rand 20, we are going to find 10% of that. What's that going to give me? It's going to give me 2 Rand 42. So let's add 2 Rand 42. What's that going to now give me? Well, I'm going to get 26 Rand 62. Last time it was just 26. Can you see how compound interest, you're earning more and more interest? Because you're now charging interest on the total plus the interest. It's going to get more and more and more. Friday comes along. Rocky says, hey, Hayden, how's it, China? Got your money. And Hayden says, okay, let's just do a quick calculation. So Friday comes along, you owed me 26 Rand and 62, plus we're going to find 10% of that. So let's just do that quickly. 26.62 times 10%, and 10% can be written as 0.1 equals 2 Rand 66. We're going to round that, hey? Can you see that? It's money, so it can only be 2 decimal places. 2 Rand 66. So we add 2 Rand 66. Well, what's that now going to give me? Well, if I've got 2.66 and I'm going to add it to the 26.62 equals, I'm going to get an amount of 29 Rand 28 cents. So 29 Rand and 28 cents. Okay. So Rocky walks into Hayden and says, Hayden, I got your money. Yeah, I know I owe you interest. I'm not stupid. I know this, China. Here's 28 Rand. And Hayden says, no, pal. We didn't work this out simple interest. We spoke about compound interest. You actually owe me 29 Rand and 28 cents. And Hayden says, oi, what you talking about? Let's go see Mr. Templeton. And so they both come before me, and I say, Hayden, once again, pal, or Rocky, once again, you have not listened. You owe the guy 29 Rand, 28 cents. That's called compound interest. Well, after that, Rocky began to listen in class. But do you understand the difference? I hope this story's helped you understand the difference between simple interest and compound interest. Okay. Now, if the bank is paying me money, compound interest is like my best buddy ever. Because if the bank gives me interest, when they calculate next year's interest, they got to calculate it on the money that was in the bank plus that interest. So they're calculating interest on a bigger amount. And the following year, they're calculating interest on even a bigger amount. So if I put money in the bank, compound interest is my best buddy. But, oh my giddy aunt, if I have borrowed money from the bank, then compound interest is my worst enemy ever. Because the bank calculates the interest on the money they've lent you. And if you're not paying it off quick enough, they're going to charge you interest again and again. Oh, it becomes one almighty mess. Be careful when you borrow money from a bank. Okay? Right, now let's go right back to the beginning. So we said we use the following formula for compound interest or compound growth. A is equal to P, bracket, 1 plus I to the power of n. Please take note, it's not times n, it's to the power of n. In other words, that's the bracket, the n's up there. What do these things mean? Well, we know what A means, hey? It means the amount that's owed with the interest. So it's the amount I put in the bank plus that interest. P is the principal amount, the amount I first put in the bank. R, we know, means the interest rate. And N, we know, means the number of times we're going to actually calculate this interest. There's another whole paragraph here, but you know what? I don't want to look at it right now. We'll come back to it when we're looking at other examples. Let's have a look at an example. Here we go. Pumi invested 20,000 rands worth of shares in a publishing house. If she earns 12% per annum compounded interest, what will the value of her investment be after 5 years? Okay, remember, we start with our formula. Now that we've got the formula, let's try and see what we're looking for and what we have. What are we looking for? We're trying to find the value of her whole investment. In other words, we're trying to find the A value. Now that we know what we're looking for, let's try and see what all the other bits are. So what is our P value? Well, we've put in 20,000 rand. So my P value is 20,000 rand. My I is my interest. What's my interest? 0.12. Remember, 12% is like 12 over 100. And if I say 12 over 100, 12 divided by 100 gives me 0.12. And in the number of years I keep it in the bank, there it is, 5 years. Or the number of times I'm going to do the calculation. And if I do the calculation once a year, over 5 years, I've done the calculation 5 times. Now that we know what we're looking for, and now that we have all the bits, let's put it all into the formula. So my formula, A equals P bracket 1 plus R to the power of N. What's my P? My P is 20,000 rand. 1 plus my I, 0.12%, and we're doing it 5 times. Equals. Out comes the calculator. Let's clear it. And we're going to say, right, I've got 20,000, 1, 2, 3, another 3 noughts, bracket, 1 plus, I is 12%, so it's 0.12, close brackets, to the power of what? 5. Okay? Equals, let's push the equal sign. What do we get? 35,246 rand. So let's write that down. 35,246 rand. And how many cents? 83 cents when we round that off. So it's going to be 83 cents. So that's quite a bit of money, hey? Take 20,000 rand, put it aside for 5 years, and suddenly, voila, you got 35,000. So why is it so much? It's so much because remember, they work out the interest for the first year. Then they calculate in the second year, they calculate the interest on the first amount plus the interest. Third year, they're calculating the interest on that whole amount. The amount you put in the bank plus the interest you earn in year 1 and 2. Then they calculate the interest on that total amount so far. And that's why compound interest just grows and grows and grows, and your money just looks absolutely wonderful. Okay. Now, I'm going to stop just for a second. I'm interrupting myself, and I enjoy doing this. So listen carefully. In the new CAPS document, and your teacher will be aware of this, there is talk about the type of calculator that we actually use. Now, I'm going to bring up the calculator on the desktop here. Now, you can see this calculator. It's got quite a lot of figures and a lot of operations. Now, a lot of this stuff we do not use in mathematical literacy, okay? But a lot of our students use this calculator. And up until your new CAPS document came out, so in other words, your grade 10s and your grade 11s are currently using this kind of calculator that we've shown on the screen. But the new CAPS document says this: we don't have to, or you don't have to have this kind of calculator. You can just have a simple calculator with just plus, minuses, and everything. So let's look at the screen. Let's focus on this calculator. In other words, the calculator you have could just have this part here. Okay, I can't draw on it, but just this part over here. In other words, the numbers with times, plus, minus, equals, divide. That part over there. So you could have a very, very basic calculator. Now, when your teachers and when the examiner sets your papers at the end of the year, or even your tests, they've got to presume that you don't have a fancy calculator. So, why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this for the following reason. This kind of question we've just looked at now, for 5 years. In an exam or in a test, the most we can do is for 2 years. Because on the simple calculation, there is a squared button. But there is no to the power of button. So you can't say to the power of 5, or to the power of 8, or to the power of 10. Okay? So this question I did here is actually kind of naughty of me doing it, because I shouldn't use for 5 years. This question I should have said to the power of 2 years. Now, does that mean I can't have a fancy calculator like this one on the screen? No, not at all. I'm entitled to that kind of calculator. But the CAPS document is set out to say, you know what, not everyone can get one of these calculators, so we're going to change the whole syllabus and say every question that we set must be able to be done on a simple calculator. Let me give you a bit of advice. Even though you allowed a simple calculator, can I try and encourage you to get one of these complicated ones? They're not that expensive, okay? Maybe 130 Rand. Now, for some of you, that's a lot of money. But I bet some of you are saying, yo, 130 Rand, that's a lot, all sitting at home with a little cell phone, eh? And you're paying airtime every month. Maybe cut the airtime down a little bit and put a little bit of money aside to get a better calculator. Why do I say that? I say that because working with this kind of calculator is so much easier than working with just the basic type of calculator. All right? So my guys in my class, even though they're allowed to use the basic ones, I encourage them strongly to get a good calculator, because it's going to help you in the long run. And even if it means you got to do 1 or 2 chores around the house to earn a little bit of extra pocket money so that you can buy a calculator like this, it's well worth it. Why? Because you're going to buy it now in grade 10 and you will use it in grade 11 and grade 12. It's a fantastic investment and it helps you get great marks for the exams. And nothing can be better than that. Okay? Try and get that calculator. Okay, I've interrupted myself, so let's move on. We're talking about compound interest. Let's get back to that. Right, let's go on to the next question. Question 4. Pascali invested a certain amount for 5 years at 11% compounded monthly. At the end of this period, she had 2,585 Rand and 3 cents. Find the principal amount that she invested. Now, this question's got a little twist to it, doesn't it? Because now what they're saying is, we know how much money she had at the end of her 5 years. How much money did she actually put into the bank? So, first thing we do, we write out our formula. Because we're dealing with compound interest, we know our formula is A is equal to P, 1 plus I, all to the power of N. Let's write this down. A equals, P equals, I equals, N equals. What are we trying to find? We're trying to find how much she invested. In other words, we are now trying to find the P. What is the A? Well, we know at the end of everything, she's got 2,585 Rand and 3 cents. What is the interest? It's 11.5%. 11,5 over 100, which is 0,115. And N is the period. So it's amount for 5 years. Okay? So we're going to say 5 years. Now, I'm going to change this question. I'm going to do it twice. The first time I do it, I'm going to pretend that the interest is compounded yearly. So let's have a look at this. So we're going to cross this monthly out, and I'm going to say, let's pretend this is yearly. Okay? And then we'll talk about the monthly later. So let's go ahead. calculator. A equals, my P is 2,585 Rand and 3 cents. 1 plus my interest rate. Sorry, I made a mistake. That is P, not A, hey? So it's going to be 2,585 Rand, 2,585 Rand and 3 cents equals P. 1 plus my interest is 0,115, and it's to the power of, how many times are we doing this? We're doing it for 5 years. 5. Let's work this funny little bit out. In fact, we don't even need to work it out straight away. We can say P equals 2,585 Rand and 3 cents. How do I get that P by itself? I take this whole thing here, the 1 plus 0,115 all to the power of 5, and I'm taking it across the side, and we're going to say 1 plus 0,115 all to the power of 5. Okay? I can work it out first and then take it across. That's fine. Now, P equals, let's take out our calculator. And we are going to do this in one shot. That's the beauty about this calculator. So 2,585, 03 all over bracket 1 plus 0,115 close brackets all to the power of 5 equals, and there's our answer, 1,499,9999. When we round it, it's going to knock everything up. What's that going to round to? Round to 1,500 Rand. Can you see that? That 9 makes that 9 go up 1, which 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 makes that 4 go up 1. So my answer is 1,500 Rand. So that's how much I'm investing to be able to get a total of 2,558 Rand. Okay, now we're going to do something very different here. I'm going to tell you this. We are going to take 1,000 Rand. In fact, let's make it 5,000 Rand. Right, so I've got 5,000 Rand, and I'm going to invest it in the bank. And I'm going to invest it, and I'm just using easy figures, at 10%. We're going to put it in the bank for, let's say, 10 years. Okay? And we're going to say this 10% is 10% per annum, compounded annually. What do I mean by compounded annually? Annually means I'm doing the interest once a year. So at the end of the year, I'm going to calculate the interest. At the end of the following year, I'll then calculate the interest again. Right? So let's look at it. So my formula is A is equal to P 1 plus I to the power of N. How much am I investing? I'm investing 5,000 Rand. Okay, so we're going to say 5,000 Rand. 1 plus. What's my interest rate? It's 10%, 0,1. Whoops. 0,1 to the power of 10. We're doing it for 10 years. Out comes our calculator. And we're going to say, right, I've got 5,000 Rand. 1 plus 0.1 close bracket to the power of 10 equals, and my answer there is 12,968. 12,968 Rand and 71 cents. Happy? Easy, hey? So all that's happened, the banks come along and said, after every year, we're going to calculate your interest. Now, let's change this question. Let's pretend we're still using the 5,000 Rand. We're still doing it for keeping the money in the bank for 10 years, but we're now going to calculate it at 10% compounded monthly. Yes, what's that mean? That means that instead of calculating the interest at the end of the year, at the end of every month now, we're going to calculate the interest. Sure. So we are going to do how many calculations in 1 year? If we're doing it once a month, after 1 year, we've done 12 calculations. Let's have a look at our formula. We're going to say, let's carry on. A equals P1 plus R all to the power of N. Remember, we were investing how much money? 5,000 Rand. So we're investing the 5,000 Rand, 1 plus, what's my interest rate? It's 10%. Now I'm going to do it like this, and I'll explain why now. Okay, so it's still 0.1. How many years? 10 years. Right, now listen carefully. We discussed this earlier. If a bank tells me they are going to give me 10% a year, right? How long do I have to keep that money in to get my 10%? I've got to keep it in the bank for the full year. What happens if I keep it in only for 6 months? We said earlier, I'm only keeping it in for half the time. So they're going to take my interest and divide it by a half. And that's kind of fair, isn't it? What happens now if at the end of the month, I'm going to calculate your interest? How long have you had the money in the account? You've only had it there for a month. We said 10% for a year. So after a month, how much interest am I going to give you? I'm only going to give you 1/12 of that interest. Aren't I? Of course I am. So I'm going to take the 10%, I'm going to say, right, but I'm only giving you 1/12 of it. And you say, well, that's kind of not fair. But hold on. How many times in 1 year am I calculating that interest? I'm calculating it 12 times. 10 plus a 2. Sorry, don't have 12 fingers. 12 times. Agreed? So if I calculate it 12 times in 1 year, how many times am I calculating that interest in 10 years? So year 1 is 12. Year 2, I would have done it 24 times. Year 3, I've done it 36 times. Year 4, I've done it 48 times. What am I doing? I'm taking the number of years and timesing them by 12. Let's have a look here. So I'm doing it for 10 years, but every year I'm doing it 12 times. Now look carefully. If I divide the interest by 12, I'm timesing my period by 12. So 5,000, 1 plus 0.1 over 12, all to the power of 120, equals, let's have a look at what my answer is going to be. So I have 5,000, bracket 1 plus, let's go fraction button, 0.1 all over 12, close bracket. How many times? 120 times. Hold on, let's just delete that, to the power of 120 times, equals 13,000. Now look at my first answer. My first answer, when I only calculated it once a year, was 12,900. Now if I calculated the same amount at the same interest rate, I'm now earning more money. In total, I've earned 13,535. 13,535 Rand and how many cents? And 21 cents, comma, 21 cents. Sure. So, maybe it's better to earn money, interest monthly than yearly. All right. What happens if the bank says we're going to calculate your interest daily? Now we're talking about a good sum. Let's have a look at this one. Because now what's going to happen is this. we are still got the same formula, P1 plus I all to the power of n. Okay, and let's just change color just to have a difference. Let's go the pink route, shall we? So equals, I'm still putting in my 5,000 Rand into the bank. 1 plus, what was my interest rate? 0,1. How many years? I'm doing it for 10 years. Okay, but now hold on. My interest, I've got interest 10%. To get that 10%, we've got to keep the money in for a year. If I'm calculating the interest after 6 months, I divide by 2. We said if I'm calculating my interest after 12 months, I divide by 12. What happens if I'm calculating my interest after 1 day? How many days in a year? 365. It means I got to take my interest and divide it by 365. And that's kind of fair, because I've only kept my money in there for 1 day, or I'm calculating it at the end of 1 day. How many times am I doing that calculation? Well, I'm doing it day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, carry on, miss a few, 364, 365. I'm doing it 365 times a year. For how many years? For 10 years. So for 10 years, each year I'm calculating it 365 times. Equals. Do you think the answer is going to be bigger, or do you think it's going to be less? Think about it. Think. Let's do it. Calculator. So we're going to say I have 5,000 Rand, bracket, 1 plus fraction button, 0.1 over 365, close brackets, all to the power of what? 10 times 365, which is 3,650. That's a lot of times we're doing the calculation, isn't it? But every time we're doing a calculation, we're just getting a little bit of interest. So here comes the answer. Voila! 13,589. Let's write that down. 13,589 Rand and 55 cents. Okay, let's have a look. If I calculated yearly, I got 12,900. Same amount of money, same interest rate, but I calculated monthly, I'm now getting 13,535 Rand. If I take the same amount, same interest rate, but I'm now calculating it daily, I'm getting 13,589 Rand and 55 cents. Can you see that, folks? So the more times a year I'm calculating my compound interest, the better money I'm going to get. Unfortunately, if I borrow money from the bank and they calculate it this way as well, they're going to make a lot more money out of me than if they only calculated it once a year. And unfortunately, the banks don't just calculate the interest once a year. Okay? You are going to pay a lot of money. Let's sum this session up. First of all, banks. You can either have an account by which you put money into that account and you earn interest, or they can open up accounts for you by which you can borrow money from those banks, like a home loan account. But then the banks are going to charge you interest. And then we said interest, there are two types of interest. We get a simple interest and we get compound interest. My simple interest, though, we don't really kind of use it nowadays, and it's very difficult to think of a true life example where simple interest is used. But simple interest is basically interest on the amount of money I am saving, and it's only on the amount of money I'm saving. So if I save for 10 years, I'm earning the same interest every single year. Where compound interest, and that's how our banks work, compound interest, I'm now earning interest on the money I put into the bank plus any interest I could have earned. So it's the money plus interest, and I earn interest on that whole amount. And that's the difference between simple interest and compound interest. And then finally, while we were looking at compound interest, we said that we could calculate compound interest by calculating it once a year, or calculating it once a month, or even calculating it once a day, okay? But we could also calculate it half yearly. In other words, we're calculating it twice a year. Or we could calculate it quarterly, which means we break the year up into 4 parts. So we're calculating it every 3 months. So we're now calculating it 4 times a year. To the teachers out there, remember, folk, whatever calculations we give our students, you should be able to do them on a simple little calculator, right? The students can use a complicated calculator, and guys out there, I'd advise that you do that. So what are you doing this Saturday? You're going home, you're saying to your mom and dad, hey, listen, I'm not going out with friends today. Let me do something in the garden. And when they say, why? You say, because I'm trying to earn money so I can buy a good, fantastic calculator so I can get excellent grades in grade 10, 11, and 12. And folk, on that note, that's all I have to say today. I trust you've learned a lot. I know I have, and I'm sure we'll chat soon again. Have a great day. Cheers.